Hi. So, you know when you have one of those days where you're just not feeling great about yourself? That's my day today. My face is gross and spotty and my hair just won't sit right and I'm a big mess. But I have to film this video, so dedication, I guess. It is now the 1st of March. February has come and gone. For me, it felt like it was 2 years long. Like, I think February felt even longer than January. It's gone on for ages. Like, I think it feels like, I was gonna say it feels like weeks since January. I mean, it was. But it just feels like ages. So I read quite a bit in February. I haven't actually counted up how many books I read, but it was quite a lot because a lot of them were really short. I did a couple of different like readathons just with myself, just kind of like little personal readathons. And that means that my total of books has kind of gone quite high because I was reading a lot of like short children's books. I'll quickly go through all the books that I read in February and then I'll have a quick chat about my TBR for March. So the first books I read in February were the series of unfortunate events books. I did a little reading challenge at the start of the month where I read as many series of unfortunate events books as I could in a weekend. I didn't read as many as I hoped I would. I kind of hoped that I would read most of the series if I could, but I ended up reading 6, which I guess was still okay. I haven't read any more since. I said I was going to carry on with them and I just didn't, but I didn't actually read all of these in February. I started this at the end of January and then went into February. I read the first two in January. So in February I ended up reading 4 of them. So I ended up reading The Wide Window, The Miserable Mill, The Austere Academy and The Ersatz Elevator. I won't go into my thoughts about them because I did a whole video on it. My series of unfortunate events video I'll link up there or below. So yeah, that's the first 4 books that I read in the month. And then I read Heartstopper Volume 1 because I did it for, I have a YA book club that meets every month in my local Waterstones, and we did the first Heartstopper book. And then after that, I read the 3rd volume of Heartstopper, which came out in February, and I loved it so much. I think it's my favourite one of all the Heartstopper books so far. Here it is. It's just so, I love this series so much. I won't go into it in detail here because I've gone in depth in my videos about these books. I've got 2 videos about this now. I've got my video about volumes 1 and 2 and then another one about this. They're my most popular videos, or 2 of my most popular videos on this whole channel because people just love Heartstopper. So I will link those below so you can go see my thoughts on these, but I just love them so much. Like I kind of identify with the characters a lot and yeah, I love them for many reasons. You can hear about it in my other videos if you haven't watched them already. And then next I read Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. Such a cute little book. Because I haven't suffered from depression, I maybe didn't click with it as other people might. Like I know a lot of people it really helps them, but it was kind of good to see his story and like his experience with depression, and it also gives you a really good insight into how it must feel to have depression. He kind of explains what depression is and what it isn't, and how it's kind of misused a lot of the time, and like what actual depression is compared to just feeling depressed. Like anyone can feel depressed, but there's a big difference between just feeling depressed and actually having depression, and I think he does a really good job of differentiating those 2 things and showing you what depression actually is and how it can manifest and like what forms it can take, and then also what you can do to kind of combat it. And like for a lot of people, depression won't just go away. It's not something that people just kind of recover from like the flu, but he gives tips on how to kind of make it feel better and how to kind of stop it from taking over your life. So in that respect, I think it's really good, like for anyone to read it. If you know somebody with depression, I think it will give you a lot of good tips on how to just look after them and how to make sure they're okay and how to look out for people that might also show signs of depression that haven't really talked about it very much before. It's a really good book and I'm glad I read it. This was another one I read for book club. So yeah, I'm really glad I read it. Another book that I read this month, and it was just incredible. It's one of my new favourite books. It was recommended by Books and Lala. She talks about it a lot and I just loved it so much, and that's Middlegame by Seanan McGuire. I have never read a Seanan McGuire book before, so this was my first experience of her writing, and I know a lot of people have said they love it, a lot of other people have said they weren't a fan, like they prefer her other works, but I think because I haven't read any of her other works and I don't have anything to compare this to, I just thought it was incredible. Like, I just loved the story so much. It just has so many twists and turns, and oh my god, I need to do a full review of this. It'll probably be going up on my blog rather than as a video, but I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. But it's basically about, I don't even know how to explain it. So there's an alchemist who is basically trying to reach godhood. Like, he thinks that godhood can be attained through creating twins, essentially. He creates sets of twins just kind of using his own blood, and he is basically trying to create sets of twins that might be all powerful and become God, basically. They can work together to have all the powers of the universe. And the book focuses on two of those twins, Roger and Dodger. All of the twins have like matching names, like rhyming names. So this focuses on Roger and Dodger. Roger's love is English and language and linguistics, whereas Dodger is all about maths and numbers and kind of logic. So they have these kind of contrasting skills, but they work together really well. And when they're kids, they're given to families at either end of the country in America. So they're in different time zones, completely different families. One of them is placed with a family that has a lot of background with this alchemist and what he's doing, so they know they're given instructions and things on how to raise him, whereas Dodger is given to just a normal family. She's just kind of adopted by a normal family that think they're just adopting a normal baby, and they're kind of comparing them to see the difference in their upbringing and if it has any effect on their upbringing. They realise from when they're little that they can kind of telepathically communicate, and it just all springs from there, and it turns into this story that has so many twists and turns in it. And I think anything that I was expecting to happen next, it goes off in a different direction, and it's just one of those books that you don't really know what's going to happen next. You don't expect anything to happen the way that it does, and it's just incredible. I love the writing so much, and yeah, I'm not going to go into it too much because I will definitely do a full review, but it's turned into one of my favourite books, and I'm so glad that I watch Books and Lala's channel because I wouldn't have heard about this otherwise. So I also read a few books that I don't have with me. I read some ebooks and also some audiobooks. So the first one was The Boy Who Steals Houses by C.G. Drews. You might know her as Paper Fury on social media. I haven't read any of her books before, so this was the first one. I think her other book is, what's it called? 1,000 Perfect Notes. I haven't read it, but The Boy Who Steals Houses is basically about two brothers. One of them is autistic, and they are kind of kicked out from their family home, and they literally steal houses. So they find out when families are out of their house, like on holiday or whatever, break in, they find the spare key if they have one, and they kind of tend to keep the keys just as like, almost like a, I don't know, just a memento of where they've been, and they'll just live in someone's house while they're away, and then when they're due to come back they'll leave and go and find another house again. I can't remember the main character's name, it's driving me nuts, but he ends up getting into this family's house that come back while he's there, and he kind of tries to seamlessly fit himself in with the family, so he ends up pretending to be someone's friend, and they all think that he is another person's friend, and he ends up staying for dinner and he ends up staying for tea, and like it spirals into this whole lie, and nobody really knows whose friend he is. They all just assume that he's the friend of another sibling because this family has a lot of siblings, and it's a very interesting story. It's kind of heartbreaking and I just really enjoyed it. Like, I didn't expect to enjoy it so much, but I really did. I think I gave it 4 stars. I got it from NetGalley months ago and I finally read it, so I need to review that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. In January, I listened to I Was Born for this. I put my review, a whole video review, again, I'll link it below. So then in February, I decided to listen to Radio Silence, and I haven't reviewed it yet, but again, it's another one I need to catch up with. Today is going to be my day to catch up on reviews. But it's about a girl who listens to a podcast called Universe City. It's kind of like a Welcome to Night Vale style podcast, where it's like a serialized fictional podcast about this town, and she is obsessed with this podcast, and she finds out that someone that she knows is the creator of this podcast, and she ends up kind of getting to know him really well, and it then just kind of explores their relationship as they're going off to uni and her preparing to try and get into Cambridge, and it's really good. Like, it's definitely I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it because it is very kind of character driven. It focuses a lot on like the characters' stories more than the plot. So I know I've seen a few reviews where people say that they wish it had more plot. I really enjoy anyway stories that are very character driven and you focus a lot on like the characters' stories and how they're feeling and just kind of like their experience. So I really enjoyed it. And then finally, the other audiobook that I listened to was Sadie, and my god, Sadie is such an interesting audiobook to listen to because it has a full production. It has an entire cast of like 30 plus voices, and the voices of the main characters in it are just incredible, especially Sadie. I found out that she has done a million different audiobooks. She's done like the Lunar Chronicles, she's done the Caraval books, I can't even remember now. She's done so many audiobooks and her voice is incredible. Sadie has a stammer and her way of kind of reading the stammer is so good. Like, it's just so good. So good. And all the other voices are amazing as well. It makes you feel like you're listening to an actual like documentary. So basically the story is that Sadie is 19 and her little sister died, and they're trying to work out how. Like, they just found her body, and there's a person who has a podcast all about kind of exploring small American towns, and he decides to do a separate series on his podcast called The Girls, all about trying to get to the bottom of where, like, Mattie's death, Sadie's sister, and Sadie has also disappeared, so they're trying to get to the bottom of where Sadie's disappeared to, and he's driving all around the country trying to like find out where Sadie has been. While that's happening, we're also getting Sadie's perspective and like her account of where she is and where she's going and why. So it's really interesting to see at first where Sadie is going, and then you also go back to the podcast where he's then following her and trying to work out where she's gone. I gave it almost 5 stars. I think I gave it 4.5 or kind of 4.75. It's literally just a tiny bit shaved off the 5 stars because the ending is left so open. And when you read a book like that, you expect it all to be cleared up. You expect to get a resolution, and it's almost a little bit disappointing when you don't get that resolution that you hoped for. Like, you've listened to this whole audiobook or read the whole book, you're kind of keeping track of where these characters are going, and then you just suddenly don't get a resolution, and it's very strange. I won't give any spoilers, but if you like endings that are wrapped up well, and you kind of get everything resolved, then this might not be the book for you because you just don't get the resolution that you had hoped for, and that was why I took a tiny bit off it being 5 stars. But otherwise, I think production-wise for this audiobook, it's definitely 5 stars because it's just great. Like, so many voices just make it so entertaining to listen to. And then finally this month, I'm still kind of catching up with it today, but yesterday I decided to do a Jacqueline Wilson readathon, and I've been trying to read as many Jacqueline Wilson books as I can. I found a stack of Jacqueline Wilson books and I have been trying to read as many of them as I can. I can't remember what order my videos are going up. I don't know if this is going up before my Jacqueline Wilson one is. I think it might. But look out for the video coming soon, if it's not already on my channel, where I vlogged that whole day of trying to read all my books. But these were the books that I read. I didn't read as many as I hoped. I thought I would fly through a lot more. Like, this doesn't seem like very much, but I think altogether I read just over 800 pages, and I think I got a bit exhausted towards the end of the day because I did read like 7 different stories, and I think putting one story down, forgetting the characters, and then going on to the next story and trying to pick up new characters and stories, I did that 7 times, and I think I got a little bit exhausted towards the end of the day. So I ended up reading The Cat Mummy, Twin Trouble, Bad Girls, Double Act, Video Rose, The Mum Minder, and The Worry Website. And today I want to try and read a couple more as well. I want to try and read The Illustrated Mum and The Lottie Project. Whether I will, I'm not sure, because I've got a lot of stuff to do today, but I am treating it like a 24-hour readathon, and I started at 2 p.m. yesterday. It's currently just coming up to 11 a.m. So I've got like a couple of hours until the 24 hours is done. So I'll have to see if I can fit in another one of these before 2 p.m. and that'll be my cut-off for the readathon. But yeah, it's been so fun. It's just been like such a good nostalgia hit. I won't go into all of these books in this video because I've got a whole video coming about it, but it's just been so good for the nostalgia to kind of read these books that I haven't read in years and see how different they are reading them as an adult. So yeah, that's everything I read. So in terms of my TBR for March, I'm not really sticking to a set TBR now. I've stuck to kind of a set written down list of my TBR for the past few months, and I've really liked it. It's helped me get back into reading again because I've had this list of books that I really want to read, and I was reading almost nothing in 2019, and then when I started this TBR, I think in about November-ish, I ended up flying through so many books, and it helped me get back into reading again. And now I'm back at that point where I know I can read anything, and there's so many books, I just want to read them all. I want to just like, when I'm reading a book, I'm also thinking about the next book I can pick up, and I just wish I could read 5 books at once. So there's a few books that I definitely want to read. There's a couple for book club. We're doing The Territory by Sarah Govett, and then we're also doing A Pocket Full of Stars by Aisha Bushby. I've got a couple of blog tours coming up. I've got Harley in the Sky by Kemi Dawn Bowman, which I've already read a couple of months ago. I read an advanced copy of it. And I also have Rebel Run by Manjeet Mann. That is here. It's a novel in verse, which I love, it's my thing, and I am really excited to read it. I've seen some really great stuff about it, and I'm on the blog tour for this on the 8th, I think. Yeah, I'm really excited to read that. I've got a couple of proofs upstairs that I really want to get to as well. I can't remember the names of them, but I've been sent quite a few proofs recently, so I really want to get to those as well. I need to read The Goblet of Fire, the next one in my Harry Potter reread. I'll link a playlist below. I'm currently reviewing all of the Harry Potter books. So yeah, apart from that, I mean, I've also started Pages & Co, so that'll be when I'll finish this month. And then I've also just got a stack of books upstairs that I want to get to at some point. And yeah, I don't really have a set TBR apart from those things that I definitely need to read for like blog tours or book clubs. I am kind of looking forward to just mood reading this month and just picking what I want to read. I hope you enjoy your day. I hope you had a great leap day, that extra day in February that we don't usually get. And I hope you have a really good March. I will see you soon, and I will also see you in my next wrap up at the end of the month. Bye!